Hello, dear friends. My name is Carla, and I'm back with you, wanting to elaborate. I'm sorry, just one of those days today. Candidly, openly, about my last post. I actually posted two. The first post was about uh, exposing those, well, just not exposing, just acknowledging. I'm gonna try to stay away from the word exposing, because I think at this point, when you're dealing with someone's life is so precious. And like a friend of mine said on Facebook, we're only here for a short while, any of us. And it is just as sad, it's really terribly pathetic that we have people that like to create terror and unnecessary pain in other people's lives. And my last post was acknowledging what I was directly told by people in my family, that my biological mother, my biological father, I am a Bouvier, as in Bouvier Kennedy Onassis, and we had no idea, no knowledge of it. And I was angry in my last video because I feel that I have a right to be. I had my life raising my children. We had a family. And when you learn things like this, it's traumatizing. It's devastating. To this day, my children refuse to talk about it, about my biological status, and I respect that. That's their choice. That's their wish. I don't think my children have anything against the Bouviers, the Williams, or the Kennedys, or the Bushes, anyone. My children, I didn't raise my kids to be like that. We didn't waste our days talking about other people. It's just something that was just never in our, it just wasn't, within us. I didn't raise them to that. We spend our days talking about our goals and what we'd like to do, family parties and, different events, things that we wanted to do. And I just want to talk candidly about my family, my two boys, Gene and James. Oh, God, I love those two kids. They inspired me to move on. When the traumas first started back in 1998, I remember Gene saying to me, he says, "Mom, don't leave, stay here, complete your goals, don't let people run you off or run you away." We had no idea what was going on. We had no idea. The people that we loved and trusted once in our lives had betrayed us. And the politicians that we admired and looked up to, they betrayed us. They hurt us. This man I got with, Jim McGarrigle, for 17 years of my life. I was a young girl. Oh, vibrant, vivacious, full of goals and aspirations and dreams. I knew what I wanted in life. And, like I was saying in the last post, Jim was no mistake in my life. Not after now that I know what I know now. He was no mistake. And, yes, the government has been watching. Yeah, I'm sure the government is watching all of us, but some more than others, and for obvious reasons, because of who I am. I didn't know I was a Bouvier. My kids didn't know that. Like I said, we didn't spend our days talking about the Williams, the Kennedys, the Clintons, Bush. These people just didn't come up in our lives. We were in our own world. We knew what we wanted. We had goals. I mean, we liked going out dining and all. And like I said, this man, Jim McGarrigle, came into our lives. And oh my, did he like to show off. I had good-looking kids. We had a good-looking family. So he'd take us out to these nice restaurants. And, we'd walk in like, we were like a Hollywood couple. And our kids, my kids, I dressed my kids preppish at the time. They had the button-down, the collar shirts, the polo shirts, the Docker slacks and stuff. And that's the way I dressed my kids. And My oldest, when he got older, he said to me, I remember, he says, Mom, you changed after you got with Pop. They called Jim Pop because he raised them when they were just children. And maybe I did see some signs of Jim, but you never know. You never would have dreamt that a person that you spent your life with those many years could be so manipulating and so evil. And Jim hid a lot of things from me. Lots. He hid the fact that he knew the Clintons and he knew some people in politics. And so did the Williams. They hid some things from me too, that they knew people in politics. So, with all these people in our lives, with all these secrets, nothing good was about to come out in this. With all the family secrets and all the political power behind all these different families and powerful entities, it was just a disaster waiting to happen. And my family, they were just sitting back watching. All of these people were probably hoping the same thing. They were hoping, well, let her dream, let her do this, we got this under control, we're going to control her life. No remorse, no forethought of what it would do to my kids or how it would affect my kids. They didn't care. They could care less. I remember Gene as a boy, he'd come home and he'd discuss, at the dinner table was our, main course, because there was a time to sit down and talk. And Jim was okay about that in the beginning. We were accustomed to it. I raised my kids to come to dinner dressed. You had to have a shirt on. You had to be dressed when you come to dinner. You didn't come to dinner, and not at my dinner table, with your tank tops on. You sat down and we ate. That was a time for family to talk and to bond. And yeah, I'd have candles lit at the table. Sometimes we'd have wine, and sometimes we wouldn't, but it was a festive time. And Gene would always discuss about his art. Oh, that kid was fascinated with Da Vinci and Picasso. He was fascinated with all of them. And then I guess around 11 or 12, that's when his teacher told me that he was gifted and talented, and he needed to be in a special school for gifted and talented kids. And I was having some problems with Jim. Again, I have to reflect back with Captain McManaman. Everything about our lives, I guess now, to reflect back on it, it was cosmetic. We looked like the all-American family, but we weren't. And I had no idea what was in store for me. I had no idea who I was. And I remember after our lives started falling apart, Gene would come to me and says, Mom, they're trying to push me and Jamie out of this school, they don't want us to come there anymore. No, it wasn't anything like racism. And they went to a very, very good school. It's what people were doing in my life. When Doug Johnson wanted me, they trafficked me. When one of these men wanted me, any of these men that was associated or connected with Jim in this whole ordeal, when they wanted me in their life, the politicians stepped in and they trafficked me and my family with no regards to anything. I remember Doug saying, oh, don't worry about James. He's special needs. People like him don't go to college. That was his words. He said, oh, and just put Gene back in, just put Gene into some type of trade school. He had no remorse. They didn't care. These people wanted what they wanted. And the only way that this could have happened was through someone in politics. Because Doug didn't have that type of power. I remember my kids and I went inside the South Shore Housing office back in 99. We sat down there and we pleaded with this case officer to please help us. I remember my son, he said, please give us housing. This is when I wanted to leave Jim, and all this kind of stuff was going on in my life. I was forced back in the house with him. So I built my family up again. And we had a nice home, like the pictures you've seen. And I remember Gene coming home from work. He says, Mom, if we stayed here for the rest of our life, I'd be happy. I said, I know you would, honey. So I started building my businesses and getting James the support he needed. James, that child, he's a talented kid too. He can dance. Even with his disabilities, this child can dance. I mean, just a natural, and sing. And he used to write poetry before he was diagnosed. I remember Gene and his basketball team would ask James to write, some poetry because they fancied these girls. You know how kids when they're in school. And it was charming. It was funny. And he and his brother used to be so inseparable. They were close. Changed. Yeah. They tore my family down. Me and my family, all of our goals. I remember when I first left Jim back in 99, 2000. We couldn't find a place to stay anywhere. The politicians and whoever was listening to my phone, they, excuse me, I got a phone, another phone call coming up. They made sure that we couldn't move. Basketball scouts were looking at my son when he first entered the school. He was only 14. And I remember we'd sit down at dinner before the trauma, and Gene and I would talk about the different colleges. Even in Texas, he says, Mom, I want to go to a school in the Northeast for basketball. But he definitely wanted to major in graphic arts design. But no, my son didn't get in any trouble. The reason he didn't finish school, it wasn't anything like that. Our lives were torn down. And I had to put most of the attention for James. Yeah, I did. I remember the teacher calling me in for a meeting with Gene, and Gene was becoming very rebellious because of everything that was going on at home, and I was trying to cover it. And Jim and I weren't getting along, and I remember Gene says, oh, geez, my mom didn't even come to my meeting. And his brother at that time was doing so terribly bad. We had never been homeless before. We didn't even know what it was like to be homeless. We just didn't have that type of life. We're talking about preppish kids in very, very upper class neighborhoods in very good schools, where the curriculum was the priority at the schools. And this was devastating. I was in shock. And I didn't even know what post-traumatic stress and trauma was. I had no idea what those things were. And I think when my son had to get into counseling, and then his counselor wanted to talk to me because I wasn't dealing with it. And I think what happened is when they started helping me to remember my past, somebody didn't like it. No, they didn't. I know Jim didn't like it. I know I confided in my mother, the woman that raised me. She didn't like it either. So this is where all of the secrets and the politics were incorporated in it. But it was at the cost of me and my family's lives. It's devastating. I did everything I could do to make the best of it. Yeah, I got back in the house with Jim. Things seemed to clear up. I can't imagine a politician doing a favor like that for Jim. It had to be more to it. As long as I stayed with Jim, I stayed hidden. No one knew who I was. And then when I reestablished myself, my businesses, and had signed a contract for $500,000 a year for Vegas, I nearly ended up dead. I remember my kids watching on the living room floor saying, "Are they killing my mom, Pop? Is my mom dying?" They were both in shock. I taught them both to be strong and what faith is and to have faith in God regardless. I taught them what morality is. Some of us grow up and our parents don't understand what it is like to have morals. But my kids know. I could be tough. I had to, because there's a tough world out there. So those parents that go around and think that you shouldn't be tough on your kids about certain things, fine. And you know how that ends up and how that turns out. Love is a part of discipline, because if you don't discipline your children, the law will, basically. And these men that they sent in my life, you can tell what their lives were like. And I didn't see that Jim had become jealous of me and my children, but he had. He didn't want my children to have anything better than what he had done for his, and I couldn't see that. He pretty much used me and my children to make him look good. It made him look good. He lied about mostly everything. He was a compulsive liar. And he lied to politicians. He would tell them one thing and tell me another. Oh, he played the game very well. He was what you call a chronic case, the epitome of a chronic sociopath. I still didn't believe it after everything I'd gone through. My kids were hurt, and we looked at each other. You could just see the pain in our eyes. You know, we had no idea where our problems were coming from, and I didn't know. I didn't know any of these things. But anyway, I did everything I could do to make the best I could. Yeah, I'm sure I made some decisions and choices that weren't good. Probably weren't the best, but somehow we survived. We all have to. And I remember when I told my son, I'm going to have to get off the cake because they're pushing me out of here. This is before he tried taking his life. That was the end result. Jamie was hospitalized and Jean was hospitalized both in the same week. I think everything had just taken its toll. And the voice said to me, the grace of God, I was praying to him, and he says, Carla, whatever you do, do not break. Your kids are going to need you. And I think when Jean started seeing my appearance change, like I was talking about in my other video, if I presented myself as a bag lady and all broken down, who would believe me? So when Jean seen me changing, seen my face changing, he says, Mom, he kept saying, Mom, go to emergency, go to emergency. Yeah, we weren't prepared for any of this. We didn't know any of these people. Again, like I said, my family and I, we didn't talk about the Bouviers or the Kennedys or the Williams. We were too busy into our own lives. And we had some good times. Oh, God, we had some good times. The extravagant dinners, the gourmet dinners, the dishes. And, we dined. We enjoyed our home. It's an old phrase saying your home is your castle. And it is. And there had to be respect in our home for each other. And when I was in the process of leaving Jim, oh geez, it was extremely stressful in the house. But I think that was Jim's strategy to keep me distorted and distracted so I couldn't focus on my family. I don't know everything about Jim's life, but I can say this. The people that raised him apparently failed him, because this man knows nothing about love or family. And me and my kids probably gave Jim more love and family support than he's ever had in his life. And he thanked us by tearing our lives down. And the politicians condoned it. by enforcing these horrendous crimes that they've taken against me and my family. And the more I pleaded, I'm trying to hold my composure. The more I pleaded, so I had to teach my kids to be tough. Yeah. So it just, everything was just taken away. Everything. They had movers coming into my home. I remember my son traveling, and he says, "Mom, am I going to be okay?" I remember calling my kids and saying, "Are you guys safe?" They said, "Yeah." I says, "Where are you?" They says, "Mom, we're afraid to say because of the people that's listening to our phone calls. This is the way we lived. Constantly." So like that for the last, 15 or more years. I gotta go. I'll be back. Carla Bouvier.